Um, Jess, I want to start just sort of overall picture of this. I know you went down to the site. I think it was Wednesday this week. We saw some pictures that the EPA tweeted out. Just your observations from being down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me. So, been out on site a couple times now. I think the most clear thing that's happening on site that everybody's seeing right now is that when the collapse occurred in the Potomac Interceptor, DC Water rerouted that sewage through the C&O Canal. And so the flowing water that folks are seeing is that reroute through the C&O Canal, and then ultimately that drops back into the manholes directly back into the C&O Canal. And so I think being out on site, that's kind of the first thing that sticks out to me. And when I'm out on site, that's what I'm looking at is making sure that everything is as contained as it can be, and that the flow is being handled in a way that it is ultimately being diverted back into the interceptor through the bypass.
Now, it says here in the release that Jake sent me last night, the EPA will implement the president's direction to provide all necessary management and coordination among federal agencies. What exactly does that mean? Because it's in juxtaposition with, well, DC Water nor Maryland has not asked us for help. So explain what that means from the EPA's perspective.
Absolutely. So, in it's true. Those requests, that I will say though that over the course of the week, we have had some requests that have come in from DC Water, so we're actively working to fulfill those. At a certain point, EPA and the federal government needs to step in and provide a more concerted effort to ensure that things are being done on the site as expeditiously as possible and protective of public health. So I think the shift that has occurred is EPA, especially on EPA's front. Traditionally, we provide a pretty high level oversight role, especially where a state has primacy under the Clean Water Act for unpermitted discharges, for enforcing water quality standards. The state generally takes the driver's seat. So what you're seeing here is a shift, and I'm honored to have the confidence of the president and the administrator to head up this role. But you're seeing a more concerted effort by the federal government in coordinating across the agencies with equities, so EPA, the Army Corps of Engineers, National Park Service, and FEMA, to ensure that we are making sure the federal government is making sure that this gets done as expeditiously as possible and protective of public health. So an example of that is this morning, and I think currently right now, they started at 9:30. The Army Corps of Engineers sent out a couple of their engineers to do a determination of capacity, especially on that C&O Canal where you're seeing that run right now, in advance of the inclement weather coming in tomorrow. So making our own determination that there is or is not sufficient capacity, and then to the extent we find that there isn't sufficient capacity, in our opinion, deploying resources to increase that capacity.
We were out with the Potomac Riverkeeper Network folks the other day, and they have a few complaints, if you will. And look, they are the watchdog. They're the nonprofit. They are wanting to test the river themselves. They feel that the EPA should have just stepped in and taken this over and done more from the very jump. Any response to that?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that EPA has had boots on the ground since the very beginning. We've been on site since the collapse
Yeah.
occurred. Our inspectors have been out there. It's just this shift should not be perceived. This more intense coordinating and oversight role should not be perceived as anything to say that we haven't been there the whole time, because we have.
Yeah. Do you think that anybody I think a lot of people are like, how the hell did this happen? Who's at fault here? I know
Yeah.
that can that question be answered at this point, or is this just kind of a horrible accident from what you can tell at this point?
I mean, I'll be honest, these types of occurrences with infrastructure, especially with wastewater and drinking water infrastructure, and this is wastewater, to be clear, no impacts to
Right.
drinking water, but
Right.
these things happen more than we'd like. And so there will be a tremendous investigation that occurs to determine exactly what the cause was. But and I don't want to dive too far into the technical
No, no,
weeds,
no. Yeah.
but I think we have an idea of why this occurred, and specifically how the erosion to this pipe occurred and why there was more erosion in this location, which is why the collapse occurred here. And so we'll be also coordinating to make sure that once this collapse is remedied, everything's back into the interceptor and the land and the Potomac are fully remediated. We will be sure that DC Water, as expeditiously as possible, takes a review of the full Potomac Interceptor, especially in the areas where we think that those areas are susceptible to this type of collapse happening. We will be ensuring that inspection occurs to head off these types of events happening again in the future.
You mentioned that you've already had boots on the ground and that will continue. Are your folks doing something different? You know, obviously the DC water folks are doing the repair to the pipe and they're doing the testing of the water, and DC Water is doing that, and Maryland is probably helping. For the viewers, they see EPA, what does that mean on the ground that you guys are doing?
Yeah, it is. It's again stems back to, I want to start with EPA's role, but then I want to talk more about kind of this coordinated federal role.
Yeah.
So from EPA's role, we really are looking at ensuring compliance with the laws to ensure the protection of public health. And so is DC Water taking every action that they can to ensure that this repair is gonna happen as expeditiously as possible, and this repair to the point where all of the wastewater is back in the Potomac Interceptor and the bypass through the C&O Canal is not occurring anymore. That is projected to be completed by mid-March, and so I think helpful to have a timeline on that as
Totally.
well. As far as the kind of more coordinated federal approach, that's where I want to talk about kind of, again, this ability for the federal government to deploy resources to ensure that if there aren't sufficient actions being taken, we can deploy resources to kind of fill those gaps as we see them. So providing that additional layer, and that core example is the one that sticks out in my mind for this morning, but kind of the oversight role, but then also the action role where we need it.
Anything else you'd like to say about this? I mean, this is a disaster of epic proportions. I think it's kind of silly to say it's the biggest spill ever. I mean, who cares at this point? It is a catastrophic spill, and you are the federal agency to deal with things like this.
Absolutely. We are dealing with a catastrophic failure of a significant piece of wastewater infrastructure into one of the most prominent rivers in this country that runs through the heart of our capital.
Yeah.
It is a collection of things that really are very notable here. And so this federal government under President Trump's leadership, we are ready to step in. We will ensure that every action that needs to be taken is taken as expeditiously as possible. And we're there right now fulfilling that commitment. But I think the couple things that are I think most important to me, if I can leave you with them, is again, there is no impact to drinking water at this time. And also those videos that are floating around online, there's a lot of misinformation online, but those videos of water flowing, there is no wastewater flowing into the Potomac
Correct.
at this time. It is only going into the C&O Canal and then back into the Potomac Interceptor. So just a couple things that I've been trying to reiterate every time I talk to folks.
My last, and while we'll have you here for 90 more seconds, is this an example of, we talk about sort of aging infrastructure. They say that they were repairing the interceptor when this pipe collapsed. This pipe is God knows how old. What sort of overall lesson is this? Look, I imagine there are lots of pipes like this around the country, not just here in DC. What sort of message is this about sort of aging infrastructure in general? Maybe you don't want to speak about that, but I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for folks who live in the space of drinking water and wastewater like myself, I think we are very cognizant of the challenges that the aging infrastructure in this country pose. And so there is a need to be acutely aware of the infrastructure that you're operating, the infrastructure that you're maintaining, to ensure that you're taking all actions necessary to ensure that a collapse or a catastrophic failure like this does not occur. And that is when I speak about the kind of the remaining portion of the Potomac Interceptor. DC Water already has money that's set aside for that inspection. We're going to be working with them over the next couple of weeks on that timeline to ensure that they're completing that inspection as expeditiously as possible. But it is, you know, kind of out of sight, out of mind with water infrastructure until it's not.
Yeah. It seems that the federal government's going to get involved now that the DC has asked for help. I don't know what role the EPA plays in that, but maybe that's something different.
So there's definitely the more kind of specific process that runs through, you know, with FEMA once an emergency declaration is approved. And so you know, we'll be coordinating on that front as well. But regardless, there is a very concerted, coordinated effort under President Trump's leadership to get this addressed.
Okay. Thank you. 10:52. So hopefully that is a good time for you.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the information. I would love to do it. Next time you're down at that site. I don't think this story is going away, so love to do it in person.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll let you know.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks
Thanks,
so much.
Josh.
Thanks, Jake. See ya.